Hey guys, we are going to be looking at some examples on how to find the greatest common factor. As a reminder, this is just what do the terms have in common. We've done this before in class. I know it's been a little while since we've looked at examples like these, so that's why I wanted to make a video for you guys. But we're going to go over two examples together. I'll have you try two on your own, and then you guys can go ahead and have some notes on this here. So as a reminder, greatest common factor is what do the terms have in common. We're going to look at two examples here together to kind of help you be able to work through some things at home, because I know we don't have those graphing calculators like normal. And so things can be a little bit trickier when it comes to dividing and multiplying things out here. So let's go ahead and look at our first two examples. Please make sure you take a second, pause this video, and get your notes written. We want to make sure we're keeping those all together in either a notebook or a binder so that they are all working together here. All right, but let's go ahead and look at our first example. So we have two terms here, 18x plus 42x to the third. And we want to look at and ask ourselves, what do they have in common? And so remember, we call that a GCF. And we go ahead and we are going to put that out front. And then we're going to look at what is left afterwards. So taking a look, let's first look at our numbers here. So I have 18 and I have 42. I want to find the biggest number that will divide evenly into both 18 and 42. And now for some of us, dividing and figuring out what numbers goes into each other, it's a little bit easier for others. So on the assignment page for this week, I've linked in a multiplication chart. Now I know some of us use that in class. If you're unfamiliar with this, a multiplication chart simply is a multiplication chart. So 5 times 3 is 15. Okay, so it's all the numbers 1 through 12 multiplied out. So hopefully it will help you figure this out a little bit. But you can reverse that. So we're looking at 18 and 42. So on my chart in here, I want to look for 18 and I want to look for 42. Well, 18 and 42. Okay, perfect. So 18 and 42, they're both divisible by 6. Okay, let's see if I can find, is there any more 18 and 42s? Well, here's 18. I don't see any 42s in this row, which means 42 is not divisible by 9. Let's keep looking. Oh, I see a 42 here. Yep, we already did that one. So it looks like my biggest number that's going to go into both 18 and 42 is 6, right? They're both divisible by 6. So I'm going to go ahead, my GCF out front here is going to be 6. And then x here, let's look, we've got one x here, and then I've got 3 x's here. Let's take a look. In common, both of these groups have one x. So I'm going to take one of those x's outside with me. Now we want to look at what are my leftover pieces. Okay, what's the leftovers? And we do that, remember we put a little hat above this, with division. So we're going to take each of these and divide them by our greatest common factor. And again, you can use your multiplication charts for this. So 18 divided by 6 would get me 3. I had an x, but I brought it outside, so there's no more x here. Plus 42 divided by 6. So 42 divided by 6 would get me 7. And I had 3 x's, but I took one on the outside, so there's only 2 left here. So I have x squared left on the inside. So our answer here, guys, is this. This is our GCF, 6x, and what's left over is 3 plus 7x squared. That would be our answer. And remember, an easy way to double check this answer is to reverse the process. So if we were to redistribute this, remember do those little those rainbows, 6x times 3 would get me 18x. 6x times 7x squared would get me 42x to the third. So we know that we did that right. All right, let's go ahead and look at one more together, and then I'll have you try two on your own here. All right, Now this time we're dealing with some negatives here. I've got a negative here and we're also subtracting. So when I'm looking for my GCF, okay, when I'm looking for my greatest common factor, I need to take those into account. So let's first look at my numbers. My numbers, I've got 3 and 1. Well, the biggest number that's divisible in between those two, the only number is 1. 1 goes into both of those. Okay, I can't put 3 into 1. That's not even. But let's take into account here. I've got a negative here and I have a negative here, which means that's a GCF. That's something shared. So I'm going to bring that negative outside with me. Okay. Now let's look at our variables. I have x to the 4th here, but I don't have any x's here. So they don't share any x's, so I can't take any variables with me. Sometimes that's going to happen, guys, where you don't have something that's in common. All right, so far it looks like our greatest common factor is just -1. Now remember, we want to divide this out to figure out what's left. So -3 divided by -1 now is going to get me a positive 3x to the 4th. And then -1 divided by -1, this is still something, okay? -1 divided by -1 becomes now a positive 1. You have to hold that place here. A lot of you guys would just go like this and say it's 3x to the 4th and say that these cancel, but they actually don't, because remember, you're dividing here. -1 divided by -1 is a positive 1. And again, redouble check yourself. So -1, 3x to the 4th plus 1. If I were to redistribute this out, -1 times 3x to the 4th, good. -1 times 1, good. Checked our work. This is our answer. All right, guys, go ahead, pause the video and copy these 2 problems down and give them a try. All right, go ahead and check your answers here. So our greatest common factor is 10x. And then when we divide that out, 30 divided by 10 gets me 3. And -70 divided by 10 gets me 7. Notice I didn't take a negative out front here because this 30 is positive. Okay, so don't get confused like with the example that we did up top here where we took a negative. That's because both of my terms were negative. I don't have that here. All right, taking a look here. -2 is my GCF. It's the biggest thing I can take out. I can't take out any variables. And again, -2 divided by -2 gets me a positive 1. We still have to hold that place. -8 divided by -2, now I have a positive 4x. All right, guys, join my office hours if you have any questions. This multiplication sheet is linked in the assignment page, so please make sure you're using that and taking advantage of it if needed. All right, guys, let me know if you have any questions.